Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a TV show review slash thoughts. And this one is going to be a double review where I'm going to be taking a look at FX's and Hulu's Shogun and Netflix's Onimusha. And in case for parents out there, in case you're wondering, both Shogun and Onimusha are both rated TV MA here in the US. So for this one, we'll start off first with FX and Hulu's Shogun. Now, I haven't really heard. I remember hearing about this being based off a book or anything, but I never got a chance to really read about it. Nor did I never really hear about this show until I kind of was scrolling around Hulu like one day and saw that they were promoting this new show called FX Shogun and everything. And I decided to take a look and watch this couple of episodes and I really got hooked onto this show and all. I mean, I was surprised like I mentioned, I didn't hear about that this was based off a book, not to mention there was sort of a mini-series that was done back in the 80s. So it was kind of interesting to see that they were doing another take on this, and to be exact. And after watching basically all 10 episodes, I would say I came away very impressed with this show and everything like that. So it was definitely one that I would definitely recommend for those who, to just watch, whether you have it on Disney Plus with part of Hulu or Hulu in general. So what I'm going to do for FX Shogun is I'm going to break it down into what I like and what I didn't like, mixed, not 100% sure about. In terms of what I like about FX Shogun, I will say that I definitely like how the show definitely has a little bit of a Game of Thrones vibe slash style to it, though. And for those who have ever watched Game of Thrones and everything like that, you kind of can feel a little bit of that with FX's Shogun. Now, just for clarity, I do want to point out that unlike Game of Thrones and all, I wouldn't go as far as calling Shogun outright, soft porn the way Game of Thrones is, but there is some similarities you can see in terms of ranging from backstabbing to some of the storytelling and everything like that. So there is a little bit of a style with Game of Thrones in it, and if you like that style, I definitely think you will like Shogun in general. Also, I definitely like how the show definitely tries to be more authentic, though, in terms of Japanese culture and everything like that, or Japanese culture back in those times and everything. So I gotta give credit to the people who worked on that to try to be as authentic as possible, especially when you are reading some of the subtitles in terms of when they are speaking in Japanese and everything. So hats off to them aiming for that, though, while at the same time going for somewhat of a Game of Thrones style to it, though. The next one I want to talk about is basically one of the characters named John Blackthorne, and he's played by Cosmo Jarvis, if I'm saying his name correctly. And I have to say, he definitely was one of the highlights for FX's Shogun, though. I like how his character is portrayed and everything like that, and how it's basically him, coming over here to Japan, finding a way, breaking through like the Portuguese hold on it, in terms of promoting, Christianity and everything like that, and his interaction with some of the folks, basically, the villagers and the locals in the area, though. I really like how his character was portrayed in the show and everything, and all in terms of and basically him trying to understand some of the language to basically in helping one of the generals, I forgot his name and everything, in terms of helping them build up an army, since he's basically preparing for war and everything like that. So John Blackthorne's character I really thought was really neat, and I definitely think he was one of the highlights for basically FX's Shogun in general. And last but not least, I will say some of the fight scenes in this show is actually pretty good. For some reason, I always enjoyed, some of the samurai style fight scenes and everything like that. And this one definitely did not disappoint and everything like that. It was done really well in this show and everything. So definitely, I definitely did enjoy a lot of the fight scenes in FX's Shogun and all. As far as what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure, I guess my only big criticism is that I don't know how they're going to do a season 2. I know there's been reports that they are moving ahead with that, but I'm not really sure, considering the fact that supposedly, since this is based off a book, there was only, I believe, one book, so trying to do a second season would be, certainly would be interesting to see how they would pull that off. On the other hand, I mean, one example I could give is my mother, who likes the show True Blood. They based that off the books, but once they done all the books, they decided to go like their own path and everything like that. So it's possible they could do that with a season 2 for FX's Shogun. Whether that works or not, that remains to be seen. So I'm not sure how a season 2 is going to work in general if they are truly going through with this. Overall, I would say I did come away pleased with FX's Shogun. It's definitely a show I would definitely recommend for those, whether you're watching it on FX or if you have Hulu Plus, or if you're doing it having Hulu on Disney Plus in general though. At its best though, I like the Game of Thrones styles that they had basically on the show. I'm not saying it's 100% Game of Thrones, but there is some similarities here and there. Cosmo Jarvis' portrayal of John Blackthorne, I thought, was the highlight, and he did a really good job portraying that character. And of course, the fight scenes were really neat, and I definitely enjoyed them. As far as what I didn't, but as far as at its worst would be, is I'm not sure how a season 2 is going to play out. But for that one, time will ultimately tell whether they can pull it off or not. So we'll have to wait and see about that one. But in either case, I would definitely recommend watching FX's Shogun. The episodes are kind of long, so they're like 53 to 70 minutes, so you might want to, I'm not sure about binge watching all the episodes, but it's definitely one worth watching. So if you have Hulu Plus, or Hulu Plus on Disney Plus and all, I definitely would highly recommend watching FX's Shogun and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2 of my double review. In this one, I want to give my review / thoughts on, or my take on, Netflix's Onimusha. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with my double review, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look, and this being part 2, we're going to be taking a look at Netflix's Onimusha and all, based on the Capcom's video game and everything like that. Now, when it comes to Capcom doing shows or movies based off their video games, let's just say when it comes to it, their track record, I would say, is either mixed or bad or anything like that. Obviously, we've seen ones, like Street Fighter and everything like that. Resident Evil, while we have seen them while those movies may have done well at the box office, though, hasn't really garnished, fan favorites. And I think the last Resident Evil movie didn't do well at the box office either, if I remember correctly. To even some of their shows and everything like that, I think they tried to do a live action Resident Evil on Netflix, and that didn't go over very well and everything like that, to even basically trying doing one based off the cult hit Dragon Dogma, which definitely got sort of a mixed response to some folks out there. Although you could argue the silver lining with that is that we did get a Dragon Dogma 2, so that certainly isn't a bad thing or everything like that. And we have seen Netflix take stabs at shows based off of video games, and some have done pretty well, whether it's the Witcher series, Castlevania, Sonic Prime, to even, Cyberpunk Edge Runner and all. And so the latest one I recently got a chance to watch was the one based off of Onimusha, a series that I remember playing during the PS2 era of games, which originally ranging from 2001 to 2006 and everything like that. So after watching several episodes, or watching the first season to be exact, I would say that while it is not 100% perfect, as far as a show based off of a Capcom IP and property, I will say this is definitely one of the better ones out there and all. So why don't we break it down into what I like and what I didn't like, mix, not 100% sure about. In terms of what I like, I will say, at least from the visual side, it definitely looks good. The visuals kind of come off a little bit. Part of it feels somewhat of an anime style, and part of it feels like computer generated and all. This is kind of very similar to what we saw with Netflix's Dragon Dogma to a certain extent, and you kind of see that here, to be exact, in basically the Onimusha series. I mean, there are some scenes, I think mostly during the intro and the end credit scenes, where they do sort of a watercolor or the old like Japanese art style looks and all, but for the most part, the entire show is kind of a mixture of one part somewhat anime and one part computer generated. But visually speaking, it still looks good and all. The next thing I do want to talk about is the fight scenes, and I will say that I definitely enjoyed them, especially when we got to see some of the scenes where they're fighting either any of the other demons or gammas out there, to even basically seeing when the main character uses a gauntlet, you know, the gauntlet that looks very similar to the gauntlet used in the Onimusha video games and all, and seeing him turn into an Oni and everything. So in terms of the fight scenes, though, I definitely enjoyed them. I thought they were pretty good, and probably one of the highlights, to be exact, for this show and all. And finally, last but not least, in terms of the story and everything like that, I definitely felt like the story was an improvement over Netflix's Dragon Dogma, where that one I was a little mixed on. This one I felt was a little bit better. Maybe it had to do with the samurai setting and everything like that. And while it doesn't 100% completely borrow from the video games entirely, though, there are some elements here and there for basically the Netflix's Onimusha. So for this one, I will say story is an improvement and everything. As far as what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure, again, this goes back to the story. While I definitely agree this is an improvement over Dragon's Dogma, I would say at the same time, I didn't feel like it was as good as, say, any of the Onimusha games, or even some of the other shows based off of other video games, whether we're talking about, you know, the HBO Max's The Last of Us, or other shows that Netflix did, like, as I mentioned before, Sonic Prime, Cyberpunk Edge Runner, Castlevania, Witcher, or even Amazon Prime's recent, Fallout series and everything like that. When compared to the stories in those shows, I feel like that one sort of blows Netflix's Onimusha out of the water. I mean, while I do think the story is interesting, it just doesn't pull me in as much as those shows do, to be exact, though. So, story-wise, as I said, improvement over Dragon Dogma, but not as good as the other shows and everything like that. Overall, I would say Netflix's Onimusha is definitely good, but I would say, in my view at the very least, not as good as, say, the Castlevania or the Witcher series that they have done on that streaming service and everything like that. At its best, I do think the visuals are good. I think they look nice for this show. I do enjoy some of the fight scenes in Netflix's Onimusha, and I will say the story is an improvement over Dragon Dogma. But at its worst, I will say there are other shows that have better stories, aka The Last of Us, Fallout, Castlevania, that I think blow Onimusha, the story in Netflix's Onimusha, out of the water and all. But in either case, I still came away pleased with this. I certainly wouldn't be against the idea if they were to do a season 2, but I do hope that basically this opens the door to the possibility of either a remake or a remaster of the old Onimusha games, or a brand new entry into the Onimusha series. I mean, hey, if Dragon Dogma on Netflix somehow managed us to get a Dragon Dogma 2 and all, I can't see how we couldn't see that with Onimusha in general. So, either case, I still enjoy the show, just not as good as the other shows based off of video games that I have seen before and everything. Okay, this concludes my double review, or my take on FX's and Hulu Shogun and Netflix's Onimusha. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about FX's Shogun? Did you get a chance to watch all 10 episodes? Did you like the style of how the show was done and everything like that? Were there any characters that you thought stood out the most, or which actor playing that certain character and all? What are your thoughts about Netflix's Onimusha? Did you enjoy that show, to be exact, though? Do you think it's a good show based off a video game, or do you think there are other shows based off of video games that do a better job? Do you think this could open the door to maybe another Onimusha game, much like how Netflix's Dragon Dogma may have opened the door for us to finally get Dragon Dogma 2? Do you agree with what I say in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal, me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, so you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!